afternoon. This is a meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission. Can we have a roll call, please?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Erasmo Villarreal,
Present.
Jose Tellez, Carlos Flores,
Present.
George Beckelheimer,
Present.
Raul Ogalde,
Present.
Johnny Narvaez,
Present.
Abraham Lugo,
Present.
Jorge Dominguez.
Present.
For the record, Mr. Chairman, you do have quorum.
Thank you. Can we have a motion to excuse Commissioner Tellez? I know he was tied up.
So move.
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. The next item we have, can everybody please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, the next item that we have is the consideration and approval of the minutes of April the 4th. Does anybody have a motion?
I move to approve the minutes of meeting April 4, 2019.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second, all those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. The next item we have is citizens' comments. Do you have any?
No, we don't.
Okay. At this time, I'd like to recognize Commissioner Dominguez. I know he has a few words that he wants to say.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. For the record, we had some communication from an attorney. There appears to be a litigation on previous agendas, and some of the correspondence and notification were sent directly to Planning and Zoning. This committee will base the decisions on the ordinances, Mr. Chairman. And I feel that those type of letters being brought directly to us instead of being sent to legal for response, it creates an intimidation on the board. And even though we have some of the members that are attorneys, it's not their duty to interpret something that is beyond our control. So the reason that I'm bringing this up is that that planning department whatever comes from an attorney, I feel that it should be returned to the attorney so the attorney can actually direct it directly to the legal department of the city of Laredo. We are not experts on legal matters, and on previous agendas, I've noticed that some of them were not voted on, or some of them might have been amended, whether we were right or not, then that is not correct. I feel that whatever issues they have, it goes through legal, and then legal can advise us as to whether act or not act on the agenda, on the item. That's all I wanted to have for the record. I had previously spoke to Vanessa, so she knows exactly what I'm talking about.
Mr. Chairman, that correspondence was sent to the Planning Commission per the request of the applicant in the case. However, should the commission so desire to direct staff to not to forward said correspondence, we would need that in the formal motion to direct staff to, rather than forward that to commission, to forward it instead to the legal department.
Well, I think at this point, we've had a case right now that, yes, we got a lot of information. A lot of times we're getting the information at the meeting without any chance to review, okay? That makes it real hard for the commission members to try to read, what's in front of you and try to figure out what's going on. That makes it very, very hard. I would recommend that in the future, if this happened, that if we could get that information at least a day ahead of the meeting, that would help us somewhat know what's coming our way, as opposed to, here it is, the day of the meeting, right as you're sitting in your chair.
Well, just for informational purposes, the correspondence that was sent out, was sent to our offices after 5, the day of the meeting, so we had already
Yeah.
left our offices. Therefore, the correspondence was forwarded the next day.
I saw that, yeah, it was late in your office arriving, so everything was late, but I think, let's hope this is an anomaly. And then we'll just, you know, if it does happen again at that point in time, I think we'll act on a motion,
Yes, sir.
okay?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right. All right, the next item we have is public hearings. First item that we have is the public hearing amending the zoning ordinance of the city of Laredo by rezoning lot 6, block 38, Las Americas subdivision, unit 3, located at 2216 Natalia Drive from R1MH to R1A. The proposed use is residential. The staff supports the proposed zone change. Yes, sir.
We received one letter in favor, sir.
In favor?
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, my name is Juan Segovia from Howling Engineering Surveying Company. And I'm here representing Hilltop Farm LTD, and we're in support of the proposed zone change, if y'all have any questions.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Mr. Segovia? Thank you, Mr. Segovia. This is a public hearing. Anybody else who wishes to speak in favor of the zone change? Anybody who wishes to speak against the zone change? Against the zone change? If not, what are the wishes of the commission?
I'll make a motion to close public hearing and support staff recommendation for the zone change.
I'll second the
I
motion.
have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next item is amending the zoning ordinance in the city of Laredo by authorizing the issuance of a conditional use permit for a bar on lot 6, block 1, San Isidro Monarch subdivision, located at 10 to 11 Golondrina Drive, Building A. The staff comments on this. They do not support the CUP in the following reason. The land does not comply with the minimum parking requirements as per section 24.78. This is a public hearing. Anybody who wishes to speak in favor of the CUP?
Mr. Chairman, we did receive one in favor.
Okay,
I have a question.
just a minute, let me recognize the speaker here, just a second. Yes, sir.
Yes, hi, I'm Jerry Salinas, owner of Golondrina Food Park. I'm here to speak in favor, and I had some pictures and some site plans. I'd like to just further explain the item, just, you know, preemptively, and then if you guys have any questions, feel free to interject. Would this be here?
With the presentation. Yes, I just, I think I went there for the first day. And we already threw about call. I just didn't understand the difference.
Okay.
It's an extension of.
As soon as he,
Thank you. Yeah, so basically, as some of you are aware, I think the majority of you were on the committee last year when I came to present the whole project. I already had a CUP and an SUP approved for this project last year. It was approved at the P&Z level. It went to council. It was approved. Both of them were approved overwhelmingly. You know, I appreciate your support last year. And so this year, we are continuing to finish out the building, and let me just go ahead and show you this is the full site plan. You can see here that this section over here that I'm scrolling over that says truck area, canopy, this building, this pink outlined area is the current bar. Up here are the restrooms and the small commissary kitchen. This is already operational. This was what was able to open first. It was the first part of the SUP and CUP that were approved last year. The CUP was for this 843 square feet of bar. This new CUP, once I was told that this is the 110 square feet. It's this tiny corner in this building. Because it was exactly approved at 843 square feet and not 953 square feet, I had to come and apply for an entirely new CUP, even though it's the same site. The TABC permit actually is for over this whole property. I'm not applying for a new TABC permit. It's all fully fenced. It's all one address. It's just the fact that specifically the CUP doesn't list that additional square footage. This is the 3D view of the food hall. You can see here, this is already under construction. The building permit's been pulled. Will probably be done in less than a month. The CUP is for, again, this corner right here. It's 110 square feet. It's the size of a walk-in closet. It's gonna be just a second serving area so that people who are eating in this building, whether it's raining or it's 115 degrees in August, don't have to walk outside across the property to get the beer. Again, it's under the same TABC permit. Like I said, we're already open, so I just included some pictures just so you guys can see how it's operating. The response has been overwhelming. The public has been, everybody that comes up to me tells me this is what Laredo needed. You know, as you can see, it's off of the trail. You can walk to it, which we're get a significant number of people that walk or bike or jog to it. This is again the trail from the other side. This is just, we're pet friendly. This is the inside of the bar. This is again the canopied area. This is one of the food trucks we have, another one that we have. This is from the angle of the parking lot. This is looking out from the bar onto the canopy, and this building back here is the food hall. And going through these doors, an immediate left, that would be the 110 square foot second serving area for the bar. This is from the inside of the bar looking back. This is the 843 square feet that's already been approved. And we're back to the beginning. And so what happened was, I approached this CUP the exact same way that I approached the previous CUP. As most of you know, it took me 2 years back and forth between health department, building department, utilities. Much of that time was with planning and zoning. I met with Nathan probably no less, Nathan Bratton, the former director, no less than 5 or 6 times over a 2-year period. Going over this because it's such a unique project. We were looking at other cities, how did they handle it? And we came up with a formula to which we abided by for that CUP. The main difference as to why this is not being supported versus the other one was supported was I worked with Ana Villarreal, who was a planner too, and Nathan Bratton, and we worked all this out, got it approved. This was considered fast food, 1 per every 200 square feet. There are no servers. It's not, in my opinion, in any way a sit-down restaurant. The staff that I dealt with this time around considers it to be sit-down, even though there are no servers, which to me is the main distinguishing factor. And so I was surprised at the fact that staff didn't support it because it took me 2 years to get this project, to get staff support, and the fact that I followed the exact same formula that allowed me to get the CUP the first time around and staff support that time around, it's just unfortunate, but I understand these things happen, and so I just wanted to come and explain the difference. It's more of a difference of staff opinion than it is anything else.
I have a question, Mr. Chairman.
Go right ahead.
Just to maybe accelerate this a little bit. So if it's a parking situ, right?
Yes.
It's a proposed parking situation. The structure that's already up or going up is going to be finished out, which is for food, right? Is for food.
Mm-hmm.
If he were to just say, well, we're not going to add the little bar, then there's nothing to be talked about here?
No, what is and it wouldn't happen here, it would happen probably at the building department when he would go in to get his building or his new business CO, certificate of occupancy. The issue is that for the bar area, that's why he needs a CUP in this case. But we have to consider all the uses on site when trying to determine whether the site meets the parking requirements. He led us to understand that all of that area is seating for those restaurants. And that's the major difference, not whether it has servers, but whether they're seating.
Vanessa, was it approved though? In other words, if he wasn't putting a bar, the bar isn't going to change the dynamics in particular, because if it's true to the form, it's a small.
I can answer, yeah.
Well, you said it's 100 and something square feet.
Yes.
That's obviously teeny. So
Yes.
that's not going to impact another 50 people to pull up. That's what I'm just curious about, because there's already a bar there.
The bar is what is triggering the
Right.
requirement for the CUP. And then once you're evaluating the CUP, and then we need to evaluate whether it meets all the parking requirements for all the uses on site. But if he were requiring a bar, then a CUP wouldn't be required, and then he would proceed directly to the building department for certificate of occupancy.
Let me ask you the question this other way then. There's a restaurant there. All you're doing is adding 110 square feet to sell alcohol. So basically you have,
It's a swap. It's going from fast food square footage to bar square footage, so the use intensified, which required one more space.
okay,
We
but
had
the
the
question
capacity
that,
to
let me
assume.
ask you this question. Are you still selling food in the same place and adding 110 square feet for alcohol? Is this
But
correct?
this is new. These restaurant, all of this is new. This is not
That's- no,
operational,
thi-
is it?
This building is not operational, but all of this square footage was included in the CUP
In
and
the
the SUP the
CUP.
previous time around. I have both ordinances here, they were signed in February of last year.
Okay.
Both of them include the site plans for the entire amount, the square footage for the entire amount. It's just me building this out, and as Mr. Beckelheimer said, if I decided to leave that 110 square feet as a juice bar, I wouldn't be here.
Well, here's the other question I have for you. Is the bar and the restaurant, I take it, under different ownerships?
It's all me.
The same ownership? So basically, you've got a restaurant selling alcohol,
Well, the restaurants are all independent
like the
owners.
food trucks, but the building,
And
that
all
you have a CUP
all
for.
four of these kitchens are gonna be the same as the food trucks are operating as independent restaurants.
Mm.
Yeah, but all of their square footage is all included, the entire building, all 3,632 square feet is included in the first SUP and CUP round that we went. The only thing that's changing is I'm changing the use of 110 square feet from fast food to bar. It intensified the use, it requires one more space, going by the formula that was already approved, and, I mean, in all honesty, given to me by the planning and zoning staff of a previous administration, because we worked this thing out so thoroughly. I've done absolutely everything that was asked of me to the T, per the CUP and SUP,
okay. So basically, what you're saying is you need one more parking space under the old,
and I have it.
okay. Carlos?
I'm sorry, I don't have the ordinance in front of me. Alejandrina, what are you saying correct? Or does the new building, is it covered under his previous CUP?
No, it wasn't.
Exactly.
That's not true. I have it here, I can show it to you.
This is
It's-
the site plan that it was considered as a shell.
Can you,
The building that is not,
show it, can you
that
show
he's
it to us?
finishing out right now.
I'll put this on the.
But Vanessa, the only thing that requires a CUP isn't the restaurant, it's the
That's
bar.
That's correct.
So,
The alcohol
if
is
the,
what triggering
The
the
CUP.
Right, but if you wanted to do
The important thing here is this, which is.
Okay.
Yeah, this is taken straight out of the ordinance, and you can see there's 5,322 square feet at the bottom under fast food, which required the 26 parking spaces. The entire building A is included in there, so I don't know what this point is, because it's all included, it's all right here, it's in the ordinance, I have it, this is the actual signed ordinance.
Okay, so I've got a few questions.
Go ahead, Carlos.
Okay, I guess the first question is, how many parking spaces do they say you need in addition?
Oh, I mean, they're saying I need another 30 or something, the site's already built. I mean, the site was built based on the terms and conditions of the previous P and Z that supported it. I worked with P and Z for 2 years so that I didn't go over staff. I didn't want them to say, we don't want this, and then I go to P and Z and council and try to overrule them. I worked with them for 2 years until P and Z was for it. And now I'm going to the same department and the formula is different when I've already built it.
Yeah.
To
So
answer your question, he would be short 36 spaces.
36 spaces, okay, and then I guess, my question to you is, Jerry, have you looked at the CUP? Are you confined with what's been listed within the proposed CUP?
Every other requirement that they're asking I'm perfectly okay with.
Okay, I guess, because I'm just trying to make sure, because we've had this situation before where the proposed CUP still brings in requirement that is this ordinance's requirement. So I want to make sure, we had the
Sorry,
situation with that bar that was, that bar, which one was it, which one am I
The
talking
one
about?
on McPherson?
The one on McPherson, yeah, where the CUP basically adopted the ordinance. And so it was gonna be impossible for them to meet the requirement of the CUP we
Requirements,
approved. So that's what I wanna know right now, is does this, if we approve this CUP, does it still have the 36 additional, parking spaces requirement? That's what I wanna know.
If and when the city council would approve it, they would approve it with the variance, I guess.
Okay.
It would consider it a variance.
I have an observation. So the variance is 36 parking spaces, right? But in the next item, we
They're
have.
short.
They're short 36. But in the next item, we have the restaurant opening up next door, right? That has a surplus of 33 parking spaces, right? So you're okay with the OPEC fence, 7-foot high OPEC fence? That was a little.
I don't abut a residential zone, I didn't have to put that. Yeah.
So is that relevant to this?
It's a standard.
Yeah, it's in the
So-
existing one.
So, and then this ratio of parking is not considering that part of his patrons are coming and walking from the park? This
No,
is,
parking formulas aren't based on,
No, they're not.
on whether it's based on the use and what is being
Right,
provided,
right.
whether they're seating or not.
so this parking ratio would fit perfectly for that bar because there's nobody walking to it, or that restaurant? But in this case, you do have a mixture of people walking to it and not parking in that space, and people at parking, so that's not considered.
Why is off-site parking prohibited?
Oh, what it is that you wanna be able to accommodate all of your patrons within your property boundaries. So you don't want to have spillover into, possibly neighborhoods or, on the right of way.
Well, so before I let it, because I know y'all have some more comments, I just want to make a comment. I think, I've been to the location, I think it is completely revitalizing that area. It's making it, not revitalizing, it is adding to the already great things that are happening in that part of the city. I think to me, this is an example of where we want to work with the developer in order to create quality of life for the larger community, as opposed to other times when we've done variances or we've been asked to do variances. I'm not directing these comments to you, Vanessa, I'm just directing these comments generally to the rest of the commissioners, where the only value is the property owner or the developer, and there's minimal value to the community. So to me, this is the exact opposite of that. This is where I think we should approve the CUP, assuming that it allows him to continue to develop it without the additional 36 spaces, because I think it has the larger community benefits from it, not as opposed to just the one developer. Anyway, that's my comment.
Okay. Commissioner Narvaez?
To staff, Mr. Salinas had stated there was a previous formula that was used, and then there was a new formula that was used that
Yeah,
upped
the
the parking
formula that
spaces,
he's
so.
citing is for, takeout. It's for takeout, and what it stipulates is that there's no seating. And I have it in here.
I remember.
Fast food, which is
Sort
very
of.
different than
Yeah, you
takeout.
just
Here
run
it
the truck
is.
by and
We'll have
sit
it.
down
So
wherever.
what would you consider takeout though? Because takeout to me is McDonald's and they have seating in there, right?
Hold on, we have it from the ordinance. So, do you have it up there? Yeah, let's go ahead and go through it. Sit-down restaurants, right, where you have seating is 12 spaces per every 1,000 square feet. And then we talk about fast food, right? Fast food, your typical Wendy's, McDonald's, you have seating, but you have a drive-through, right? And that requires 1 space for every 200 square feet. With a drive-through, add 6, this is not that, right? And then you have carry-out restaurants, and that's no customer seating or dining areas. So that's the big difference. And in that case, you would require 1 parking space for every 200 square feet. The applicant tells us that he is going to provide seating. So with that being said, we go with the formula that provides for the seating. So,
If you look at,
Let me just say one thing real quick. I think when the Land Development Code was written, it was written with the intent that what we knew back then was that a restaurant was an enclosed building, okay? And that's where that particular, I think, formula came out of. The concept that we're dealing with now is a totally new concept. It's a totally new thing that I don't think our Land Development Code at this point in time addresses at all. And so I think what probably happened is the previous director was trying to figure out a mechanism to try to get to where this would be a successful project. And that's, from what I remember from years ago, I believe the formula was written because everything was within an enclosed building. This particular concept is a little different in that there is open areas all over the place, and it's not like just totally enclosed building. Probably what you've got is just park benches and that kind of stuff. But now, let me recognize Commissioner Dominguez. He was.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This this issue has been coming to us in different ways, and we have worked with the developer for the last 2 years. I've known that project for the last 2 years. And you're correct that we have a new type of development in our hands. When it was brought to us, some of us were against it. I was one of them that was against it. But I have visited the site, and I know that the community is asking to have that additional, I would say, commodity, wherein they could actually buy the liquor or beer. I personally feel, as a person and as a commissioner, that we approve something, it's new, we brought the developer, they spend an X amount of money there, it's something that is beautiful, that the community likes it, and we could be here all night, and at the end, either we approve it or we don't approve it. But I feel that if the developer is okay with the conditions, we should approve it and get it over with, because we're not gonna close them down. He's already put so much money, and the good part about it is that the community likes it. I think whether we're setting a good precedent, that this might happen at other places in the area of Laredo. Now, as far as the parking, we're coming up that now we can use the streets for parking. This venue, it's not open all day, it's not full all day. And that area at night, you can get all the cars you want, and it will not affect the area because it's sideways of the walking trail and all that. So what are we gonna do? We're gonna close them down? I mean, we could be here all day, all night, but I feel that we should move along. That's my personal opinion as a commissioner.
I just have one more.
Hold on. I have Commissioner Flores.
Yeah, I just want to echo what you said, Chairman Villarreal. I think that it's a hybrid, and I mean, it's all of those things and none of those things at the same time. You know, I could walk to one part of it and I'm sitting down, and I could walk to another part and take out. And I could take another part and drive up and pull up and get something to eat. Or I could just show up and not eat anything at all. And I just think it's just such a unique thing. And I think what I hope is that the next project that is as bold as this one and as visionary as this one doesn't take 2 years to get developed. I mean, our city is hungry, starving for creative venues for people to live and to enjoy themselves. You know, so, you know, maybe what we also need to do is come back and look at why it took so long for it to be done, so that way we can help to streamline that process moving forward with future projects. And that, of course, is not a comment on the planning department or the building department or anything like that. I understand that, you know, as you get new projects that fit not perfectly within what we have within the ordinances, it takes work to develop and understand what is the best way to efficiently and effectively promote these projects and work with these developers. But to me, I agree with what you said, and I agree with what Commissioner Dominguez said. I think it doesn't fit specifically within it because it's different and it's unique and it's new. And 36 parking lots, as opposed to being able to streamline the quality of service within the building for the people that are there, I mean, to me, it's a no-brainer. We should approve the variance or the CUP.
I just have two comments and to piggyback off what he just said. So this is also the type of message that we're sending the outside people from, other than people from Laredo, other investors that are wishing to come into Laredo and invest into something new like this. They're gonna hear the story of having 2-year process to get this approved. They're gonna just pick up and go to another city.
Mr. Chairman,
It's happened
I
before.
can't speak to.
The second comment, hold on, I'm not finished yet. The
Sorry.
second comment is that if parking is a concern to the department, your next item has a surplus of 33 parking spaces, right? If you flip to the next item to the
Yeah.
wings,
Well,
okay.
but
So
it's
there's a
another
surplus and
property.
it's abutting his property. So I think we've covered our parking requirements there.
Yeah, but we can't, as a staff, we can't say,
No, no,
oh,
no,
we're
but
gonna
let's just use some
allow
common sense,
on a
right?
separate, somebody else's property parking.
You can't.
That just,
And
we
what was-
wouldn't be able to do that.
But let's just use some common sense. There's
Okay.
33 extra parkings right next to it.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand that,
All
but
right,
it
I mean,
wouldn't be able to
Commissioner?
work on that.
I just have like one question, I mean, or actually I have two. The issue clearly is the parking, and I guess the real question should be like, has there even been an actual complaint of the parking? I mean,
We haven't,
They
not to
haven't
my
opened.
knowledge.
was that,
It's under construction, that building.
but
It hasn't
but what's
opened.
already open right now, I mean, you're talking about 36 parking spaces.
Because they haven't asked for what they have right now.
Right, but his business is already open, right? Like you're already,
Well, 2 points that Mr. Dominguez made, which was, we're off of a private drive, it's actually called Golondrina Drive. People park on that drive. It's a
Right.
private drive, it's not a city street. That helps. And the biggest thing was what Mr. Galvez said, which is, we probably get up to a third of our people at any given time are coming on foot, on bike, pushing up the baby stroller, coming with their dog, and at least they're not coming in a vehicle, they're not using our parking lot.
Right, right.
Yeah,
And then-
so, I mean, to answer your question, no, it hasn't been a problem that we've been getting
Like, it's not
repeatedly.
something that you foresee is gonna even be an issue to begin with,
The-
in the first
the-
place, correct?
Strategically, we're trying to come up with ways to make sure that it's not, making sure that there's turnover, making sure that not, making it more of a fast service type of place, and that would help alleviate any future problem we have.
And then my second one is, I mean, I know it's, the wording is here is restaurant, and then, is W, and then the next one is one sit-down restaurants. And it has what's the requirement, but my question is like, well, what is the actual definition to planning and zoning of a sit-down restaurant? Because that's what it's like Mr. Flores was saying, is like, it is and it isn't.
And I can answer
What is
that.
the
We
definition?
we could bring it out, it's probably in Appendix A of the Land Development Code, I don't have it in front of me. But it's, I mean, to my mind, it does seem sort of obvious, right? I mean, there's only 3 categories. There's one that's a restaurant, a sit-down restaurant, where you can sit and eat, right? The fast food with or without a drive-through, McDonald's, Wendy's, all of those sorts of things. And then a carry-out restaurant, sort of, your prototypical place that you just go and stand up and order. There is no seating provided. You just walk up to a window and you take it with you. So,
This.
and we, again, he told us there is gonna be seating.
Well,
So
of course, I mean, it's on every site
It's-
plan, it's in the construction plans, every department in the city has these plans and shows seating. The key is what she's saying, it's the fast food with or without drive-through. That was the category that the last administration of the planning and zoning department put us in after those 2 years of negotiating. There is no drive-through, but it says with or without drive-through. We are like a Wendy's, it's counter service, it's like Chipotle, it's like Fuddruckers, it's like Taco Palenque. All of those restaurants I just named have seating, but they don't have servers. So the distinguishing factor that the last administration used in order to put us in a category was, are there servers? Literally, do you go in and sit down and wait for your food? That is not what this is. That's technically what a sit down is. You sit down and wait for your food. You don't do that here. You go to a counter, you order your food, you pick up your food. That's the definition of a sit down. So the definition they're using is not the definition of the last administration, nor the definition that I'm accustomed to.
Right, exactly, and I would have to kind of agree on that interpretation as well, because the common slang or interpretation that we use is sometimes when we go out to eat, where do you want to go? And we say amongst ourselves, somewhere where they bring me my drink. In this case,
A sit down.
it's, and so that's, I see the interpretation, and I definitely agree with everybody else here. That's my comment.
Okay, I've got one question left for you.
Yes, sir.
The CUP that was approved the first time around was for 42 parking spaces, is that correct?
It was, the entire calculation was taken in. It was, I can show you again.
It's 42, right?
Yeah, it shows the bar and there at the top, the bar was 843 square feet, which equaled
Right.
14 spaces. And then the rest of the 5,000 square feet, which is the entire site, added up to
Including this.
including this building with the use that we're using it for.
So how many parking
Everything was
spaces
calculated.
are on the ordinance that's approved on that CUP?
How many?
Yeah.
40.
40?
And we go up to 41.6. And we have 42.
What is the length of Golondrina Drive right now, off the top of your head?
Ooh, it's
Linear
the
feet.
length of the former Montana Mike's building,
All right?
and then this site, so that's about, maybe 1,000 feet?
Okay.
Yeah.
About 3 blocks.
Okay. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, Vanessa, isn't the new comprehensive plan trying to make more use of on-street parking for venues?
That is the intention that we've sort of gotten from the comprehensive plan, that on-street parking is gonna be more encouraged. You know, I guess, more dense,
Okay.
you know,
So-
building.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody else have any comments for Mr. Salinas?
My question, Mr. Salinas, is still, are there any amendments or anything that you want, is there anything that you agree, is there any issue with the CUP as it's been proposed to us?
The only variance
reviewed
needed is
that?
the parking variance, yeah.
But have you read what they're asking us to approve?
Yeah,
Do you have
it's
no
almost
objections to that?
entirely standard language, other than the parking, yeah. Everything else is fine.
Well, I think the only one that you need to look at is the off-street parking is prohibited.
I think we
Yeah,
should
but
strike that.
I interpret that to mean off on a city street. This is a private drive, so I would take it to mean it doesn't apply.
Okay,
Mr. Chairman, we did consider if the calculation would be one for every 200 square feet as for the restaurant use. And if it was considered a carry-out with no seating or fast food, then it would require one for every 200 square feet. And so it would require 18.5 spaces rather than the 42 spaces, right? So 18.5 plus the 2 that are already required, that would be
it's about
roughly
21.
20 spaces,
21.
right?
Okay.
So 20 spaces plus the 34 would mean he would still need 54 spaces.
The math is in my application. It's all out, it's all there. It's this exact, I mean, I can show it to you. It's all allocated.
I think it's all relative. I think we've seen it, you know,
I mean, I
what your
did the math.
CUP got approved was 42
Yes.
in the original one. That's the ordinance that's approved. You have 42, you're short 21.
Okay, so here's what I wanna do. I know
Hold
what
on,
you
hold
do.
on.
I know what you do.
You're short 21. He has a private drive, okay, that can be utilized for parking. So basically, if you've got more than 1,000 linear feet of private parking, that should help the situation, given that we're dealing with the land use code that is from the 90s, okay? Marina Suka wrote that way back in the 90s. All right, yes, sir.
I think we need to remove item 7. Item 7 is where it is. Owner shall provide parking spaces in compliance with section 24.78 and 24.78.3 of the Laredo Land Development Code. I think that if we provide that, he still has to do the 50-something parking spaces.
And that's, okay,
Okay, so that's why I'm asking,
all right.
you have to make sure that that's, you see what I'm saying? In other words, they're asking us to approve something
Yes.
that would still require you to have the same parking spaces.
Right, it would be.
Yeah, no, I need a variance on the parking, obviously, from what they're requesting. So anything that's in the ordinance that refers to more parking spaces than the 42, I obviously can't.
Okay.
Right.
I can't provide.
Okay, so, do we strike that?
Hold on, this is still a public hearing.
Okay.
We're not through there, we're not yet in there yet. So, any other questions for Mr. Salinas? Any other questions? All right, if not, this is a public hearing. Thank you, Mr. Salinas.
Thank you all.
This is a public hearing. Anybody else who wishes to speak in favor of the CUP? Anybody else who wishes to speak against the CUP? Against the CUP? Okay, what are the wishes of the commission? Yes, sir.
Can I just get clarification?
Of course.
On the commissioner's comments? That is correct, that you understand that we'd like to approve this. Are we tricking ourselves if we don't also strike number 7? Where it indicates 24.78, 24.78.3?
Well, the recommendation will go to council. It won't be just stricken right now. It'll say.
We understand
you know,
that
they
we're not the
recommend.
final say. We understand that. Okay, we're trying to do our jobs appropriately because council might call us and say, what the hell happened? We'd have to be able to answer intelligently, not guess. Which is probably why we should have committee meetings before the commissioners' meetings sometimes, so we can educate ourselves there and not make everybody wait around. So is that accurate? We should make the recommendation to council to strike that, or else we would be sitting it half-baked.
Pretty much.
On the parking spots?
Yes, sir.
Okay, then I'm gonna make the motion to strike number 7 and go against.
All right, you're gonna make a motion to close the public hearing?
Close public hearing, strike number 7,
And to approve.
and to approve the CUP and go against staff's recommendation.
And strike item number 7 from the conditional use permit, the proposed CUP conditions, right?
Yes, sir.
All right. The motion. There's a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. All those against? Motion carries. Thank you. Next item is a public hearing amending the zoning ordinance of the city of Laredo by authorizing the issuance of a special use permit for restaurants serving alcohol on lot 7A and 8A, Block 1, San Isidro Monarch Subdivision, Unit 6, located at 2445 San Isidro Parkway. The staff comments, the staff supports the issuance of the proposed SUP at this location. This is a public hearing. Anybody who wishes to speak in favor? In favor? Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, I'm Adriana Benavides Maddox. I'm here on behalf of the principals and applicants, and I'm just here to answer any questions anybody might have and speak in favor of the application. Basically, my clients would like to put a Wing Daddy's where Montana Mike's used to be. It's a family-style restaurant that also serves alcohol, but it is mostly food, and we're just seeking approval.
Any questions for Ms. Maddox? No? Thank you. Thank you very much. This is a public hearing. Anybody who wishes to speak in favor? In favor? Anybody who wishes to speak against the special use permit? If not, what are the wishes of the commission?
Move that we close discussion and recommend approval.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those against? Motion carries. Thank you. The next item is a public hearing amending the zoning map of the city of Laredo by rezoning approximately 2.85 acres located south of FM 1472 from a B3 to an M1. The proposed use is a transportation and warehouse. The staff does not support the proposed zone change.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, ma'am.
we have an update. The applicant requested to table both items.
Now, this is gonna be 6D and 6E?
But yeah, I can just.
30, some case 34 and 35, yes,
Okay.
D and E.
All right, thank you. Can we have a motion to that effect, table?
I move to table items 6D
Second?
and 6E.
6D and 6E. We have a
Yes.
motion and a second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries, thank you. So the next item we have is 7A. Review and consideration of the revision of Cuatro Vientos Sur subdivision master plan. Intent is residential and commercial. This is a 184-acre tract, and it is located west of Cuatro Vientos Road and north of Itamangana Road. The proposed action is approved subject to the following comments from planning, from fire, from water and utilities, from traffic, parks and leisure, and a notice to the developer. Good evening.
Chairman, Wayne Nance, Corliss Sands Engineering. We agree with all these comments. We wanted to note on the fire comment, we've spoken with the fire department, and we've agreed to provide a 20-foot access easement that goes across the cul-de-sac so that there would be 3 points of entry. It's an emergency access easement, and we understand that the fire department will be, is fine with that. And all other points, though, we're going to we agree with all the comments. For the record, during the one-stop shop process, we're going to accommodate the fire's comment by providing an emergency access easement across the cul-de-sac so that they have 3 points of entry.
So basically it'll be an all-weather road or a paved road or what?
Oh, yes, yeah, definitely, right across that. So
All right.
that's how we plan on doing that. So basically, we agree with all the comments.
Okay.
Does that accommodate
Uh,
your concern?
Chief Dominguez?
Yeah, no, at some point, there was a change in the plat to accommodate, the comments from traffic department, and that closed one of our exits. And, they're gonna make that adjustment so that we'll have basically the access we previously had, except being a road that's through all the time, it's gonna be an emergency access only.
Okay.
That is correct.
Yeah, and that satisfies fire's
All
comments.
right, very good, thank you. What are the wishes of the commission?
Move that we close discussion and approve.
Motion, do we have a second?
Second?
And a second, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those against? Motion carries, thank you. Next item is review and reconsideration of Los Presidentes East Master Plan. The intent is residential and commercial. Purpose of this revision is to reconfigure phases and realign streets. The proposed action is approved subject to the following comments from planning, from traffic, parks and leisure. UISD has a question and a notice to developer.
Mr. Chairman, the applicant has requested this item be tabled.
All right, can we have a motion to table?
Motion to table, yeah.
Motion and a second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. The next item is a review and reconsideration of the revision of the D&J subdivision master plan. The intent is residential and commercial. The revision includes a reconfiguration of phase 12 into unit 26. The proposed action is approved subject to the following comments from planning, from water and utilities, from traffic, parks and leisure, and a notice to developer.
Mr. Chairman, you should have an updated communication in front of you.
All right. What are the changes on it?
The changes includes comment number 4. Do you have the updated?
Yeah, I gave
Yeah.
it.
Okay.
I gave it to him.
All right. The changes include,
No,
we
that's
have
for you.
it, we have it, it's for you. The changes include, number 4. What it is that there is a hike and bike trail easement agreement, and there's some changes being proposed in this plat that may have triggered, this being a first in a new series. However, what we're asking is that the changes must adhere to the terms of the agreement, and if not, then it would be considered the first in a new series.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Eduardo Gutierrez, Premier Engineering, representing the applicant. We're in agreement with the amended comments, except for, I think it applies to items 4 and 5 for planning. 5 is also covered under the easement agreement. It's number 9 on page 4. And so as long as, I guess, we comply with the terms of the agreement, then,
We would agree to that.
okay.
We
So
would agree to that.
that's the revision that we
So
will.
you're in agreement with the
Yes.
comments?
And then we'll work with, I guess, traffic department has some issues. We'll work with them to try to work those out.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Gutierrez from the commission? All right, thank you, Mr. Gutierrez.
Thank you.
Okay, what are the wishes of the commission?
I'll make a motion to close public hearing and approve item, subject to comments from staff.
You have a motion and a second?
We're gonna strike those 2 planning comments?
No. You can agree with it. So we have a second?
Second.
A second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those against? Motion carries. Next item is the preliminary consideration of the plat of D&J Alexander subdivision, unit 26. The intent is residential. The action is, proposed action is approved subject to the following comments from planning, from water and utilities, from traffic, and a notice to developer. There is a question from UISD.
Eduardo Gutierrez again, for the record. I'm looking for the question from UISD.
Question from UISD is, with no access to Bulldog Boulevard, will Maya Drive or Josefina Drive have access to Loop 20?
Answer is yes, and, does it show there?
Let me see if I can bring it up.
Yeah.
Well, if the answer is yes, that answers the question.
Well,
Simple.
I want to show you an exhibit, but can't get it on the screen. There we go. Right now, at the present time, this is the access to Loop 20. I guess if Bulldog's not available, then it would be along this route here, which would be following Josefina down, and it becomes Whittier, it goes out to Casa Verde and University out to the Loop. Next year, we would be building this connection here, Mayela, and, not Mayela, yeah, it's Mayela. And that would provide a direct access to the Loop.
Okay.
Okay.
Any questions for Mr. Gutierrez from the commission? Thank you, Mr. Gutierrez.
Thank you.
What are the wishes of the commission?
Motion to close public hearing and approve subject to the following comments.
Second.
A motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those against? Motion carries. Thank you.
These aren't public hearing anymore, right?
No, they're not. Okay.
No?
Oh. The next item is the preliminary consideration of the plat of Lot 4, Block 2, Alexander Crossing Plaza. The intent is commercial. Proposed action is approved subject to the following comments from planning, from water utilities, traffic, and a notice to developer. Mr. Gutierrez.
We agree with staff comments.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Gutierrez? No, thank you.
Thank you.
All right,
I move to approve, subject to the following comments.
we have a motion. Do we have a second? And a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those against? Motion carries. The next item is preliminary reconsideration of the plat of Cuatro Vientos Sur subdivision Phase 10 and the granting of a variance to allow a 10-foot front yard setback on lots 1 and 2, Block 1, and lots 9 and 10, Block 2. The intent is residential. The proposed action is approved subject to the following comments from planning, from fire, water and utilities, parks and leisure, and a notice to developer. Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, we agree with all these comments.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any questions for engineer?
Just on the lots that are gonna have the 10-foot front yard, I asked that there be clearly marked on the plat, so whoever is gonna be buying those lots will be aware that the setbacks are gonna be 10 feet. That's for the purpose of the owner to be, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
We agree, and as listed in
Those
our
are
variance.
cul-de-sac- the
that's-
cul-de-sac lots.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
And this is the third time on the same plat. We're gonna clarify that on the plat very well.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. All right, what are the wishes of the commissioners?
Motion to approve.
Motion, do we have a second?
Yeah.
Second.
And a second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Those against? Motion carries. Next item is final consideration. How many of these do we have?
There's two of them.
You wanna take 10A and 11A?
11A. I'll make a motion to hear both 10A and 11A together.
We have a motion, do we have a second? And a second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right,
Make a motion to approve items 10A and 11A.
Second.
a motion and a second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those against? Motion carries. The next item that we have is regarding the revision of City of Laredo Land Development Code, Section 24-69, flood damage prevention by adding the statutory authority and the finding of facts section, revising Section 24.69.4-A, designation of the floodplain administrator, including the Texas Commission of Environmental Quality in Section 24.69.4-B6, revising the elevation requirements of service equipment in Section 24.69.5-A4, and revising the section numbers. Yes? Staff?
Mr. Chairman, this item was preliminarily introduced to the commission at the last meeting in order so that the commission had some time to fully review it. There has been one change from the previous meeting, and that is the designation of the floodplain administrator. During our most recent certification review and audit from FEMA, there was some discussion as to the floodplain administrator designation. And question, who in other communities is the floodplain administrator? What the proposal is to designate the building official or the building director as the floodplain administrator. This is in essence a construction permit. They have the necessary know-how to review building plans, to inspect building. We have discussed it with the building department. They are fully aware and in concurrence.
Okay, very good.
That
All
mean a
right.
pay increase?
I'm sorry?
Does that include a pay increase? I'm just kidding.
You want us to
All
vote
right.
that now, Ruben?
I don't think so.
All right, what are the wishes of the commission?
Let me just make one question.
Yes, sir.
One observation. Mr., I understand, Vanessa, that the flood administrator should have a certification.
Yes.
Mr. Vialli,
Mr.
am I correct?
We have to.
Yeah, they
it's
have-
recommended that they're.
You recommend it?
certified floodplain managers.
You're working on that?
No, they haven't. They're a floodplain manager.
Okay. That was my question.
Okay, all right. I think Victor's certified as floodplain manager. Victor Linares, is that correct?
And
plan? Okay. Very good.
Are we gonna act on it?
Action by the commission?
Are we gonna act?
Yes.
Act.
Unless y'all don't want to, but, I
Make a
mean, I
motion-
think
I
it
make
was
a
very,
motion to
very
approve
clear
the
what they
changes.
sent to us.
I make a motion to accept the changes.
All right?
Second.
On the second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Those against? Motion carries. Next item that we have, regarding the revision of the City of Laredo Land Development Code, Chapter 24, Article 4 and 5, the purpose of the amending of the dimensional standards, setback requirements, and many other matters incident there too.
Mr. Chairman, there is an addendum in the plat section. I don't know if you would want to deal with that before we move on to the ordinance.
Well, I already opened this, so we'll deal
Pardon
with
me.
this one.
Go right ahead.
All right, who's gonna make the presentation?
That would be me. So.
Sorry, take your time. Good evening. My name is Roland Lozano, for the record. I work for building.
And I'm Jerry Pinzon, the building official.
And we've been, as the liaison for the technical review board, we've met after direction from council, city council, to look at the setback and look at what can be made to increase setbacks. So we've met, I don't know, 4 or 5 times at least and discussed this issue. And there's basically 3 proposals here for you tonight on the ordinance. And I'm going to kind of explain it. I know the ordinance is kind of a little bit, it moves a little bit weird and it also has a chart, but it's basically 3 sections that are being proposed. And I'm just gonna outline them. One is the carport. Currently, the ordinance is up to 50% of the setback and rear setbacks and front setbacks. Those are the 3 types. So right now, for the carport, the proposal of the new ordinance is up to the property line, but including eave and everything, nothing hanging over the property line. So that is the proposal to all existing and new lots. So, staff supports it because there's really no safety issue. There's a lot of customers that come in and say, how can I build a 10-foot carport? And they're like, I'm sorry, I'm tied to the ordinance, you know, so there has been some gone to the Board of Adjustments. We don't see a safety factor in there, so as long as it stays visible through it, there's no
Three
walls. You don't put any kind of shade thing to limit visibility. So for that, that's what staff supports. That's what is proposed by the Technical Review Board Committee. And there's a exhibit here. If you look at, so this is currently that line, right here, this line, that's where you could build basically the carport. So we're proposing all the way over to this whole section to allow for covered parking within the property, up to the property line. As opposed to only 10 feet or 50%. Usually it's 20 feet. I kind of wanted to treat them separately. Last time it was introduced, this had already come to this commission, by the way, and so maybe we weren't prepared enough
or I wasn't, but, I'm
If
not
I may,
sure.
Mr.
I'm gonna
Chairman.
try to split it up if you had any questions.
Yes. The, on the carport, let's take each item by itself. You're saying that it's, existing properties, lots, and new lots. What happens on a subdivision? I'll make example, San Isidro. We have one of the homeowners that decides to bring the carport all the way to the property line. Will that ordinance overrule or be over the existing, what was designed or posted or aggregated on the plat? Chuy, would that, what will happen there? Mr. Ruiz, I'm sorry.
For the record, my name is Jesus Ruiz. If the subdivision does not have any deed restrictions, and it's an existing subdivision, then yes, they can follow the new ordinance, assuming that you all recommend and council approves. But when there's CCNRs, covenants, conditions, and restrictions, then the association will say, no, you can only do this, and they will not allow it, if it's specifically prohibited under CCNRs.
So, in other words, if we approve the way it's being brought to the ordinance, then the ordinance will not apply to the deed restrictions, am I correct?
Right, the deed restrictions would supersede the ordinance, because those are deed restrictions. And then the guys that are administering the association, those would have claim against the homeowner for not following the deed restrictions.
This is a very good issue, because,
The CCNRs.
The building does not,
The city does not.
Yeah, the
like
city-
easements, we do not enforce these
Right,
restrictions.
it's not, that's what I'm saying, in other words, it's the people that are administering the covenants, conditions, and restrictions, the CCNRs, like, for example, San Isidro has a very, hands-on, association. Lakeside has a very hands-on association, so if you try to do something that's outside of the guidelines of the association, and you don't get a variance, you're in deep trouble, so.
But to answer the question, Mr. Chairman, the ordinance would apply to all of those, even.
I agree, I mean, it would be subject to any subdivision if they wanna change their,
Be up to the associations
it's up to
to
them, it's up
enforce
to
their
them.
own.
This is strictly talking about an ordinance that would allow people that don't have, probably the older parts of town, mostly, is where this issue has come up a lot. And that's really where the problem was in the past.
And I'm familiar with those restrictions. What happened is that we're bringing something as an ordinance that was not existing when the development was being done. So now that we have the ordinance, as far as bringing the carport all the way to the property line, if we approve it without the proper wording, then we're telling some of the property owners, you own this property. There's an ordinance that you can apply, but because certain factors previously before the ordinance will not allow you to do it, would that be some type of discriminatory practice for for a homeowner?
No, because most of your covenants in homeowners associations have a provision where you can amend them. I believe, and they all vary. In some cases, it's 50% of the owners, in some cases, it's 70%, some cases, it's 75%, but there is a mechanism in them, in the ones I've seen, most of them, that allows you to change the rules that were subject to when you bought your property. But it takes,
So
like
what
I said,
and that brings my point, Mr. Chairman, that now we're saying existing lots and new lots. So what are we gonna do? We're gonna incorporate new subdivisions? Are we doing this so we can have, more building, setback, or rather, more appealing to the client as a sales pitch? Or is it actually that we're providing as a comfort to the homeowner?
The whole issue is that when they first purchase, at least in some of the more accessible housing, they're real concerned about getting housing, right? and then years pass by, and all of a sudden, it's like, I gotta take care of my car because I don't have anything covered. And under the current ordinance, they only permit the homeowner to build up to 50% of the, well, that's half the car. So with this new ordinance, it'll permit them on existing home sites to build up to the property line as a vertical easement, as a vertical setback, not a, in other words, so nothing can exceed, nothing vertically can exceed that setback. And if there's any CCNRs in the subdivision, then they're gonna have to get approval from the, but the city does not endorse
Association, from the
CCNRs. Yeah.
association.
Okay, and that also, Jerry Pinson, for the record, most of the cases we take to the Board of Adjustments is carports that are extending up to the property line. And, you know, we hear them all the time, and it's basically protecting their investment. You know, here there's $50,000 car that they only have covered. And with the heat in Laredo, we were willing to consider, and that's why.
Okay, very good, very good. Any other questions? Thank you very much, Mr. Ruiz. All right, go ahead. Mr. Lozano, continue.
Yeah, okay, thank you. There's rear yard setback, and on your communication, it said that we weren't in support of that, but let me tell you, proposed is up to 5 feet, respecting easements. This is the rear now. The existing is 20 feet residential, so an additional 15 feet of buildable area. You know, this is for, this is the proposed ordinance, what it's in front of you. Currently, the fire code does require 5 feet clearance. That's really what it requires. At first, we were thinking, you know, it's hard to even enforce the clearance, you know. You put air conditioners on the side where it's only 5 feet. So how, you know, it's really hard to, so, but after staff, the deliberation, we said that we're in support of the rear yard setback, so for 5 feet.
So let me see if I understand correctly. You're proposing to go from a 20-foot to a 5-foot?
That's correct.
If you remember the last time you were before this commission, we did ask you to come back with a study on that particular change.
A study in reference to?
In reference to how that
other
would
cities?
impact social aspects of life.
Yes, and
Do you have the study?
we discussed it, I mean,
The answer is simple, yes or no.
well, we didn't feel like we were, at least I don't have the capacity to say what social impact, I don't have.
Well, I mean,
any
you have
answer.
impact like noise when you reduce setbacks. In this community, a lot of people like to barbecue, so when you got 5 and 5, you got somebody's window right behind you real quick. There's a lot of areas there that, you know, do impact. Now you have higher densities per acre, more building square footage, less greenery. I mean, there's a lot of issues there.
Emotional distress, Mr. Chairman.
Emotional distress, barking dogs.
Can I make a follow-up comment?
Yes.
I think the issue for us, well, I guess I'll speak for myself, is this something that has been thought through, and you can tell us why it's gonna benefit the homeowners and the community? And the question is, how do we know that this is right for them? And so I can sit in you see it here all the time. We all have different opinions about something. Okay, but like I may be wrong. I've been wrong tons of times, hundreds of times. I may be wrong right now, you know, but I have no way of knowing if I'm wrong. And that's what we were asking for was if you're gonna do this setback change, have other cities done it?
Right.
Why did they do it? What was the benefit? What was the feedback? And that's what we needed
I don't
in
know
order
the
to be able
whys.
to evaluate whether this is good or bad. We don't know.
I don't know the whys, but I know that it is an issue for all cities that are going, as land development costs go up and the lots are getting smaller, that if you continue to have the same setbacks, you have a lot less buildable area, and other cities have done it. It's not.
And so that's what we were asking for.
The study, well, we took it as, I mean, I'm not an expert in this, I'm more of
engineering, trying to figure out what is code, what's right, is it buildable, the way it's built. So I look at the safety aspect to it. But if I'm not mistaken, City of Austin has 5-foot setbacks, and let me state correctly on it.
Mr. Chairman, maybe we can help out just a tiny bit. We did a little bit of research on this.
All right?
And in trying to sort of weigh this new ordinance. And we did find, we did take note of the commission's concern about quality of life. And we did look at a study from, Facio, Omar, and Laredo, Chair, Pico La Norma, Health, Quality and Life, Population Density, a preliminary study on contextualized quality of life. And we can give you the citation. And it's found that based on this study, people living in lower density places show higher levels of psychological health, relational and environmental quality of life. With regard to property values, we found that properties are often valued and judged on their surroundings. Resale values of homes with smaller backyards will, of course, be impacted by the surrounding properties. We looked at the comprehensive plan to see what we could find in there. Couldn't really find something that spoke directly to this issue, but it did mention that new buildings should create interesting street frontage with parking hidden from view, typically located in the rear or below ground. Setback requirements should be changed such that this is encouraged. It also talked about semi-public elements, add congeniality to the street front, and should be encouraged, such as porches and balconies should be encouraged within the front yard setbacks. We looked at Austin and other cities to see if we could find examples of reduced setbacks. We did look at Austin, and they don't have it across the board for all residential uses. It looks like they have something called a single-family 4A, which is a smaller lot, similar to our sort of R1A, and it is used on minimum lots of 3,600 square feet. And in these lots, their minimum lot width is 40, the minimum setbacks, our front yard is 15, the side yard is 10, and in this case, but only in the smaller lots, they did have a 5-foot, and that is excluding easements. So,
Their proposal is not specific to a small lot. Their proposal is specific to any size lot.
That's correct.
Any part of the city. That's correct, right? Okay, so, see, that's exactly our point. Like, she makes the point for us.
I also wanted to point out that the compound reference was for historic districts,
That's
not
correct.
for
Yeah.
all over town.
So, without being able to really analyze whether this is good, how can you ask us to approve it or not approve it? And that's what we said the last time, which was, we need to be able to understand whether this is good or bad. Now, Raul can speculate of what it means in the comp plan. I can speculate what it means, what that article means, but that's not our job. We're here to approve it and not approve it and just give direction in terms of the information we need in order to be able to evaluate it. And it's not an attack on you all, it's just, I want to do the job right.
Sure.
Just a minute, go ahead.
I had a question
Yeah.
before he did. So, yeah, we do need data, right? We make data-driven decisions and everything we do. But can you tell me, as it is right now, the ordinance, you can do a structure, enclosed structure with only a 2-foot setback in the back?
Yeah, this is what happens on the existing ordinance. You can come in here, once the home is built, and you can basically put an accessory building all around the back, and you can get 2.5 feet from your property owner.
But accessory meaning what? It's open or is it?
No, accessory can be enclosed.
It's not attached to the main house.
I know, but it's enclosed, right?
We went over the definition last time. Accessory is incident to the primary use. In other words, it's not a primary use. And the whole deal here is that we want to be able to give the homeowners an opportunity to decide, what to build in their backyards. If they need more living area, that they can have more living area. And in doing so, it goes from a 2.5-foot setback from the property owner to 5 feet all the way around. So in other words, you don't have, all of a sudden that you know, that overhang, you know, 2.5 feet from your fence, and so the structures now get pushed back a little bit more, but it gives the homeowner more leeway as to how to use their backyard. And to give an example, we have a brand-new community out there. The homes are selling in the $200,000 range, which is Kaledi Heights townhomes. And you can see in the Kaledi Heights townhomes, and you get the Google Maps and you measure it, there's, these areas here are about 5 feet from the backyards. What happens to the tax base to the city of Laredo? You can see in here the tax base to the city of Laredo. If you all went to that Mancini's or whatever that gentleman's that came and talked here some time back, he says that when you look at like the cost to the city, you want to see the land. So you have like a 3,000 square foot home, a 3,000 square foot site. And then you say, okay, how much is the city, what's the tax value per square foot, not of the house, but per square foot of the lot? This is an excellent example of what happens when you have density. Here's you got a typical home site. Well, this guy already added to his backyard. Right? But you have a typical home site, and the value per square foot on the land is $37 a square foot. In other words, what you take, let's say that lot 6,000 square feet has got a value of $200 and some odd thousand. The taxable value per square foot that the taxing entities have, they have $37 a square foot.
Assessed value, right? Tax
Assessed value. Yeah, in other words, this is WebCat. What I did was, I got like about 3 properties in here, random. I got 3 properties in here, random. I got 3 properties like in Cielito Lindo, random, in different areas of town. So once you create and you allow people to have a little bit more density, what happens is the taxing entities are able to tax more dollars per square foot of the land, because instead of providing open porches or open structures, now they can add to the living area if they need to add to the living area. That's one example.
All right,
If you look at the
Commissioner
cities-
Narvaez.
So I see a couple of problems, a couple of issues with this. As you stated with the townhomes, when you purchase a townhome, you go in there knowing that you have 5 foot space between neighbors, which is a choice that you make. The problem that I see here is that you're doing it to existing and new R1 areas. So the problem is you're taking away the choice from the homeowner, where they expected a 20-foot setback. Now you've taken that freedom away from them. So
we have two proposals. Proposal, okay, go ahead.
So what would be nice if you made a designated area for such a setback, to where a homeowner can make that choice and say, you know what, I don't mind having that neighborhood where you have that 5 foot setback, but not so much encompassing all R1s to have that 5 foot setback.
And Commissioner Narvaez, for the record, this is for new. Okay, the committee voted for new.
New subdivisions.
New subdivisions.
All right, now how do you transition from an R1?
It was for new and existing. We had 3.
Well, existing is not gonna work, I can tell you that right now. That wouldn't work. I mean, it's just what the commissioner just said.
Carports were existing and new.
Well, carport's a different issue. We're talking about the setback right now. Let's just stay on the setback. This is the rear setback we're talking about.
That's correct.
You're saying that your understanding was strictly for new subdivisions. Mr. Ruiz is saying new and existing.
The TRB recommended, Technical Review Board recommended 5 feet for new plats coming forward. That's why there's 3 exhibits. In other words, there's exhibit of.
All right, new and what else?
Okay, new and existing. So in other
And
words,
existing?
Existing plats. In other words, what's happening, what's happening, Admiral, is that today, if you have an existing subdivision, the homeowner can do this, no problems, all day long. And we have it here. This is Liberty Hills.
So what's wrong with that?
Well, that's what I'm saying. What's wrong with it?
Nothing, 2.5 feet. It's an accessory building.
What we're
It's
saying,
not supposed to be residential. It's an accessory building.
If I may.
the recommendation for the.
Commissioner Dominguez.
We have looked, Mr. Reeds, on a single basis, type of developments like the one we have in Michigan, which I oppose. see? They're so, the density, they're so crowded that the only benefit that we can see, it's the developer itself. By listening to this presentation, I kinda feel that you as a developer, I mean, good, you're good, I like the way you are, but you are creating a new subdivision where Commissioner Narvaez is saying, you're not given a choice, see? The people that are gonna buy there is because they have no choice. Whereas if we leave it the way it is, then they have a choice to come 2.5 feet, Mr. Chairman, you mentioned.
Yeah,
So
accessory building.
I feel that if a project is brought before us, where we can see like the townhomes that, the example that you gave us, I mean, that's a townhome project. I mean, we've seen it many, many times here, and I think they're good projects. But as far as our ones, I think we should stick to what we have. The reason that we asked for that study, Mr. Lozano, was intended for us to educate ourselves to the feeling of the community, how the community feels about it. I mean, we're sitting right here, we probably all live in big houses with large backyards, but how does the community feel about getting that type of change in ordinances? That's what the chairman had asked, a study that can tell us, what are we gonna do? Are we gonna go ahead and create something, a legacy for our children, where they're gonna live in little match boxes or let's call it small houses with small or no backyard? Because actually that would be no backyard, Mr. Chairman.
That's exactly what it is.
So I'm concerned about that.
Yeah, and I think part of what Vanessa read in the study is there are some social issues on that study you read, and that's what we were concerned about, okay? How is this gonna affect health of residents in the future? And based on what that study that she read, there was concerns there, that it does impact the health of individuals.
That, we didn't talk, I can tell you, excuse me.
Yes, go
We
ahead.
didn't talk, at the committee, and I recall specifically, engineer, Mr. Edward Ochoa, he was against this. You know, he's like, I don't want existing. I don't wanna buy, R1 and already built and all of a sudden everybody's building. Now, they might have more people. I don't want, that's not what I want. He wouldn't be in favor of that. As a matter of fact, he was against. And it was a concern for staff. So that's why at the beginning, we were like, no, the thing we looked at was for new, and I said, well, when it's planned, like you're saying, when it's planned for a new subdivision, well, you know, going in, what it is that you're buying, you're going into, you know, as, originally, they wanted it to be both new and existing, but then eventually they came back to, we talked about it, we said, hey, look, we don't feel that this, and it became an issue, and then they made another motion and voted just for new on the rear.
Okay, but let me ask you this. Let's say you've got an existing subdivision and then there's vacant land next to it. The existing subdivision has a 20-foot setback, okay? Now I'm gonna back up to that subdivision with a 5-foot setback. That's gonna impact the resident on this side that's already there.
And that's still part of, when it goes to planning and zoning, they're still going through that process where it can be looked at. I mean, we're looking at it from the point of view of the safety and as how you're gonna construct it, is it safe? Now, again.
I don't think that that's an issue because, I mean, you're gonna follow the International Building Code.
Right.
And that tells you how to build.
Right.
That's not a problem. But then there are standards in place. I think this commission is more concerned with the impacts of what's existing. And I know what you're saying is, we're talking about new subdivisions, and I'm saying, I'm saying, okay, have we thought this thing out totally? Because there's a lot of land out there that's already platted, that's already got properties on it. But then adjacent to that, there's a lot of vacant land that can now come back if this thing were to go through with a 5-foot setback right next to an existing subdivision.
Yeah,
And that's where I think a lot of the commission members here,
And with all due respect, I can't stand here and say that I know enough about this issue to stand here and say, yes, do this, or yes, do that. That's why I'm in that field.
And as staff, we've been going on
Teetering
and off,
back and forth.
hard to regulate. You have an old subdivision with a new subdivision, how do you enforce, hey, the other guy is doing it,
Yeah.
why can't I? And so, we kept on going back and forth.
And
all right, just a minute, let me recognize Commissioner.
Thank you. This is a perfect example of why this should be pulled out for a committee or a workshop, Mr. Chairman, because there are a lot of questions about it. We want to respect the developer's ability to make money with land costs being so high,
Right.
construction costs being so high. I think most of us recognize that. But literally deleting all the green spaces or ability for the children to go outside at all, there's a whole psychocultural thing that impacts here. It just pushes everything, and I'm not trying to be Santoron or anything, I'm just saying that this is a workshop discussion that do we want to build our cities thoughtful to our children's lives? Will each of these subdivisions have community centers with outdoor play areas that are significant enough to receive the children to go outside? I mean, get the hell outside. You know how difficult that is. If you don't have any outside, you don't have any option to go outside because there's no safe zone for you. Safe zone's a big word we use in the school district a lot, which is why from 2002 to 2012 we partnered with the city so frequently in creating larger playgrounds and the walkways around the schools to have safe zones for the people to come outside. But I doubt they exist in these areas. Maybe they do, but they probably don't. So if it's allowed, then do they also have to build a safe zone area for the children? I'm not saying they do. I'm really saying that it sounds like a longer discussion here. Plus, we know our city very well. You eliminate the backyard, the front yard becomes the backyard. So there's all this, the storage, the carne asadas, it all moves to the front yard.
Right.
So what happens to the 20-foot setback neighbor who's got his thing tidy in the back? So perhaps you have buffer zones. You know, there's a lot of stuff about this. Sure. So I recommend that this is, I didn't say table, but it'd be postponed. Is there a way to take it piecemeal? The carports, I don't think I have a problem with, but this one here.
Can we, take this piecemeal and just say we can approve? I think the carport issue, I think you've made a good explanation on that. I think most of the commission members are in agreement with that one without a problem. But we do have a lot of concerns with reducing the setback in the rear. There's a lot of unanswered questions. And there's just a lot of concern, I guess, at this point to move forward with this. I mean, like, I think you heard all of the different members. Let me recognize Commissioner Lugo here because I know he had some.
And then there's so many questions that I don't even know where to begin. And one of them is like, and if I understood your presentation correctly, it's like the only pitch you really pitched at us was that you get to tax people more. I mean, really? Like, I mean, as far as like per you build more on the land and now it's like you get more tax to the people. That's your pitch, if I understood that correctly?
The pitch is this. The pitch is, if you want to call it a pitch, and I'm not calling it a pitch, but the whole issue is giving the homeowner a little bit more discretion on how they can use their property. And when you give the homeowner more opportunity to build livable space in their backyard, then the taxable amount per square foot of that area increases. And just to kind of talk a little bit to the tax base, if you look at this little chart in here, you would think that some of the properties in South Laredo are less valuable to the city as far as a taxable property, because let's say the acquisition cost is lower, but because more of the living area is being used on that home site, it's almost comparable. I mean, if you look at it in here, I mean, you would think Fiesta, that was a PUD.
Okay.
$28,
I think we
$28
got
a
your
square
point
foot.
on the square foot cost. I think
the whole deal
that's fine.
is, just like on this example in here.
Let me stop you right there, because I think we've got your point. Let me recognize Commissioner Flores.
I'll let Mr. Ruiz finish his point.
Yeah, nobody, like, and I explained this at the very beginning. When I build a home, I'm not gonna build a home without a backyard. I'm not gonna do that. But when the homeowner then gets the home, then they start adding accessory uses in the back, but they're not permitted to use some living area in the back. All of these areas, there's the city of Dallas, you know, they have 5-foot rear setbacks. You have the city of Corpus, city of Corpus in here, and you have some 5-foot rear setbacks. And they went over the city of, and what ends up happening is that not everybody wants to maximize their backyard, but there are some that do. So the whole objective is to give families an opportunity to be able to have more discretion over the backyard. If you feel 5 feet is too aggressive, maybe go to 10 feet, make a recommendation of 10 feet, but at least give the families an opportunity to add some square footage to their backyard that's livable.
Based on what you said, let me tell you what my concern is. I think you're right. I think it's always a balance between the one homeowner who wants to do some kind of improvement on his property, and you know, he chooses or she chooses how they're going to do that, versus what will be the cost, the impact of the value of the home surrounding that home once that person uses that discretion, right? And so just to go through the whole thought, right? So like, if someone is built something that is a nuisance, and I don't mean that in a legal term, I mean that just sort of like in the term of that it's a nuisance in that it lowers the property values of the homes around it, or could potentially do that, right? Right now what we have is we have a way of enforcing it. We have a way of, you know, saying, you know, you cannot build this additional, you know, part of your house into this area, and we shut it down, and we, you know, and it stops, right? And so what I'm saying is, what I would like to know is there a way to implement your policy that takes into account the property value of the neighborhoods? Now, especially because from what you all are saying, it sounds like, and maybe I'm wrong, but it sounds like you think this will be done more like in working class neighborhoods, or like in South Laredo or areas like that, where people want to expand their use of their property and build slightly larger homes. Okay, well, that's fine. But one of the things that we want to take into account is to make sure that whatever the policy decision that we make in terms of the ordinance, that it takes into account overall property values in those neighborhoods, because you want people to be able to resell their homes and not have a value go down because my neighbor made some improvement that is allowed under an ordinance that was approved and was never studied, if that's the best thing. Now, you showed us right now these 5-foot setbacks.
Right, that's a new
Now,
subdivision.
the problem is that we don't have the value of the rest of the Corpus Christi city ordinances that may have other types of restrictions on when they can do that or can't do that. You see what I'm saying? Like, I can't just show you, hey, this says 5 feet, but not show me this other part where it says, but when you do that, however, there's gonna be some restrictions that you have to do in order to be able to go that far back. So that's what we're just asking for, something comprehensive. Listen, maybe this is the greatest idea in the world, Mr. Grace. And maybe we're totally gonna vote unanimously for it and praise you guys for this amazing, you know, thing that you guys did. We just need to know how to do it to make it either right or workable, or at least to know like what we're doing. You see what I'm saying?
Well, basically, the homeowner can use the backyard so long as it's accessory use. In other words, so they can build a bunch of stuff, and it seems to me like the ordinance is geared more towards an affluent ordinance than it is to like a working family that says, I just want to add my 4th bedroom. Sometimes they're buying, you know, a 3-bedroom home, and they want to add a 4th bedroom, and now they can add a 4th bedroom in the back. So it's giving them a little bit more control over the use of the backyards, and I'm pretty certain that there's a lot of examples through the variance board where there have been granted variances to use 10 feet. In all our 10 feet as far as living area. So, I mean, if you feel like or if you like no, well, then it's no, right? You all recommend, against it.
We're not, I don't think we're ready
I
to
think-
recommend against it or for it. I
I
think we still need
what
more
we need to
information.
do, to be honest with you, is, the proposal that is before us is a pretty much a flat 5 on all zoning districts. And I think what we
Residential
need
use.
is a workshop. I mean, Commissioner Flores has got a point, and we understand land costs are very expensive. I understand your point. People need to add. I think we need a workshop. I think we need a workshop to figure out what is the best mechanism to go forth with this, if indeed that is the wishes of the commission.
And for the record,
in
that
the
was
future.
Commissioner Beckelheimer's idea.
All right, that's
about
fine,
the
but
workshop.
I think what we need is a workshop to discuss these issues. I think we may want to look at how we can come up with something that may be a way to go forward, maybe, and allow those people, like you said, as a builder, you say, well, I'm gonna build you your house, you know, and I'm gonna give you your setback, but if you need a 4th bedroom or whatever, that we have a mechanism that allows you to do something like that within maybe certain zoning districts, you know, within maybe certain new subdivisions only. But I think we need more discussion on what's in the best interest of the whole community that exists right now. And that as we go forth as a city, I think we have a.
If I may add.
Yes, sir.
We're currently working on the upgrade of the land development code.
Well, and that's why I'm saying, I think this commission would like to see, you know, the proposal that is coming forth, as crazy as it may sound to me, it may not be, okay? It may not be. But I think we just need more information on a lot of different issues, and that's why I'm saying I would be amenable, if the commission's amenable, to have a workshop specifically on this, because rising costs are a big issue, and the cost of a new house is up there. And if there's ways to, you know, figure out how can we, you know, improve on home ownership,
Yeah.
I think we're all for that. Yes, sir.
Can I also add, I think that we should also do this workshop, and I think in that workshop is also get a preview of what is being proposed to change or what's being taken into consideration in the land use code or whatever someone just mentioned right now.
We're just in the initial stages of
Initial stages.
procurement.
Okay.
So we're not even
Okay.
there yet.
Okay, at some point, I think we would need to do that, and I also would like to add that I think that we have some new commissioners, and I think that we should have someone do a presentation on the comp plan, what it is, what it's gonna do in the future, so that, because they were not part of the process when we adopted it, we reviewed it.
Right.
So I think that would be also a very good thing, and it's a good
good
I
refresher.
think we always have a lot of questions when the comp plan issues come up.
Okay.
So maybe we can do a combo of those, together, so that way we have, you know,
I agree. So, I think so. I think right now, I mean, the presentation that you made on the 20-foot carport issue, I think,
Well, I'm so sorry, Mr. Chairman.
Go right
Can't we
ahead.
just do it all at the same time? 'Cause if you approve the carport and then approve the 5-foot, there's a shrinkage of,
well, I think that what I was gonna say is the way it's written, we can't approve it because it's written boom,
They're all
boom, boom,
together.
boom.
They're combined.
So they would have
Oh,
to
we
come
kick it all
back
off to the-
and bring, let's say, just amending section, what is it, of the carport, 24.658, is that it? Of the carport?
On the carport, yes, it's on the front
You know what I'm saying?
yard
Is
setback
separate
already.
them.
It's a section within.
But they would have to come back because the way this ordinance is written, it has all of them and we couldn't take action on that.
what I'm suggesting, Mr. Chair, is that since they're together and they're all related to single-family residents, right? They're all
Right,
one.
it's residential use, and I made a
Residential use.
point of
Okay.
asking exactly that.
I'm really saying, maybe, perhaps these 3 items can be they can just all be taken at the same time at the workshop.
yeah, that's what he's saying.
Oh,
He's saying the
that's-
same, he's saying the
very
same
good.
thing, he's saying the
Yes.
same thing.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about.
And just to clarify then, I wanted to get your opinion on the, front yard setback also, now that, you know, we wanted to, I wasn't
Well,
here the last time it was
I
proposed.
think what we need to do is, I think we need to take all of these things in that workshop into
Yes.
consideration. Front yard, rear setbacks, this carport issue, and this, you know, have a workshop on all those pros and cons and, you know, so that the commission can have, basically what the commission is asking for is we need more information to make an intelligent
Sure.
decision on whether yay or nay.
Yeah,
We don't
and-
have enough yet. Okay?
So did you want me to ask about not ask, but I guess present the front yard setback or?
I don't think it's necessary at this time, because I think if our idea is to have a workshop on all this. I mean, it's got a lot, this is a lot, okay? And I think we need a really good workshop to discuss all these issues.
And
Front,
we'll go back
rear.
to management and ask, I know, cause the intention of the technical review board, one of the motions was present to plan and zoning, but they wanted to still present to council regardless of what decision was gonna be.
Well, but the thing is, if I'm not mistaken, the ordinance has to be acted on by P and Z before it can go to council.
Right,
I have to have a recommendation.
That is the way.
yes,
Yeah.
and therefore I wanted to just say,
And I
go
don't
back
think
to
it's, I
management.
think it's, I think it's appropriate for this commission to be able to get well-informed on the issues. And before they can, take action. I've heard from all these commissioners here, and they're basically saying the same thing. We need more, information. That's why we're asking for a workshop
So
to
the-
discuss these things and flush them out. I mean, a blanket approval of, rear setback on all zoning districts at this point is like, it's really hard for us to do something like that. There's so many impacts.
Mr. Chairman, what motion do you need us to make to?
Well, make a motion, I guess, at this point to table this and have a workshop on these items.
May I make just one final comment?
Yes, sir, go ahead.
Okay.
You can make it at the
If you want-
workshop.
Yeah, aside from the workshop. If you wanted to move forward with just the carports only,
We don't.
oh, you don't want, okay.
No.
That's what the
Okay,
chairman
that's
said.
fine.
We want to
No,
take it in its
no,
entirety.
I thought you were, I
No,
thought you were okay
we're
with the
just gonna go
carport.
ahead and, flush them
If
all
you
out.
are, it's just that item B, and that's it.
Yeah, okay.
If you.
All right,
if you
make
are.
a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to table or postpone item 12B, and schedule a workshop before it comes back to us.
Okay.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those against? Motion carries. Motion to adjourn?
No.
Oh, we got one more.
Oh, that's true, the supplemental.
And I had one question just to clarify. So it was the economical impact and the social impacts.
Well, I mean, there's health issues. I mean, get together with Vanessa. Vanessa has a study that they pulled, and take a look at what's in that, in that study that she has, because there are issues there that we want to flush out. Work with planning there to flush out that study.
And also just the impact on property values
Property value.
overall. To me-
There's
to
a
me,
lot of
if you-
issues.
Yeah, and if there've been communities where, they've made this work where it doesn't affect property values, would have been the ordinances that they've included with it, in order to be able to make it work, to not have that impact.
Sure, I just wanted to make sure we addressed them all.
Do you McAllen has anything like this? They're usually a little head.
Okay.
And you can see in there by category, portions, all the improvements. And there is no real.
I'm so sorry, I don't want to be rude, but we're over that item.
Yeah.
And every
Yeah, we gotta get going.
every
All
commissioner.
right, I don't have the supplemental agenda on my computer.
He doesn't have a supplemental agenda.
It's in a different tab.
Oh, you have that.
It's the following tab after.
The next tab?
What?
Oh, next tab over at the top, next tab over at the top.
All right, I got you.
Where is it?
Oh, up
Here we go. All right, this is the consideration of an extension of the following preliminary plats and preliminary replats. The replat of lots 2, 3, and 4, Tanquecito South, acre subdivision lots 1 through 50, block 1, lots 1 through 22, block 2, lot 1, block 3, and lot 1, block 4, Tanquecito South, acre subdivision. The intent is residential and commercial. And it's basically, they're asking for an extension. My understanding is there's litigation going on here. And they're not sure whether they're gonna be through before the deadline of the plat, so they're asking for an extension. Any,
So we're just asked to approve an extension?
yes, sir.
Okay.
We have a motion
So moved.
Second.
and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion to adjourn?
Mr.
Yeah.
Chairman, we just wanted to add very quickly, one of our planners is leaving us, Karina Castillo. We wanted to wish her all the luck and well, best wishes. She was a wonderful employee, an amazing asset to our city, and we're very sorry to lose her.
Where's she going?
To where?
To Austin area, the city of Leander.
The city of what?
Leander.
Oh, yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Good. All right, well, congratulations
much.
on this new assignment.
Here's a little
Wish you the
applause.
best of luck. All right, now we can have motion to adjourn.
Motion to.
Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Congratulations on that.